Two of the three main Indo-Pakistani wars, in 1947 and 1965, as well as a smaller conflict in 1999, were ignited by territorial disputes in the Kashmir area. Although there has been a tenuous ceasefire between the two nations since 2003, they still often exchange shots across the line of control, the disputed boundary. Both sides assert that they are shooting in retaliation for attacks, while each side accuses the other of breaking the ceasefire. Numerous civilians were murdered and others were displaced due to an increase in border clashes that started in late 2016 and lasted into 2018. This was true on both sides of the line of control. After India's then freshly elected Prime Minister Modi welcomed Pakistan's then Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to his inauguration in 2014, there were expectations that Modi's administration will engage in substantive peace talks with Pakistan. However, following a brief period of optimism, ties deteriorated once more when India called off talks with Pakistan's foreign minister in August 2014 following a meeting between the Pakistani High Commissioner in India and leaders of the Kashmiri separatist movement. All through 2015, there were several openings, including an impromptu encounter in December outside the Paris UN Climate Change Conference. A few days later, the Kashmir conflict was discussed at a conference of national security advisors in Bangkok as a result of this. Prime Minister Modi unexpectedly traveled to Lahore later in December to meet with Prime Minister Sharif. This was the first Indian leader to travel to Pakistan in more than 10 years. In September 2016, when armed terrorists assaulted a remote Indian Army station in Uri, close to the line of control, killing 18 Indian troops in the bloodiest strike on the Indian armed forces in decades, momentum toward substantive discussions came to a halt. The incident was allegedly carried out by Jaish-e-Mohammed, a group with connections to Pakistan's primary intelligence agency, Inter-Services Intelligence, according to Indian officials. Later in September 2016, the Indian military said it had conducted surgical attacks on terrorist camps within Pakistani-controlled territory across the line of control, but the Pakistani military denied the claims. In strikes carried out by militants in October 2017 on an Indian paramilitary camp close to Srinagar and in February 2018 against an Indian Army facility in the Jammu area, 5 soldiers and a civilian were murdered. These assaults took place during a period of increased cross-border shelling along the line of control, with over 3,000 reported violations in 2017 and about 1,000 in the first half of 2018. Over 300 persons, including civilians, members of the Indian security forces, and terrorists, were murdered in assaults and confrontations in 2017. Anti-India rallies and violent marches demanding an independent Kashmir also persisted. India said in May 2018 that it will observe a ceasefire in Kashmir for the first time in over 2 decades during the month of Ramadan. Activities resumed in June 2018 after months of Indian military operations targeting both Kashmiri terrorists and protests. India and Pakistan reached an agreement in May 2018 to reinstate the parameters of their 2003 accord through a ceasefire along the disputed Kashmir border. Tensions and worries about a potential military conflict between nuclear-armed neighbors India and Pakistan remain high due to the ongoing unrest in Kashmir and the increased danger of terrorist activities by militant organizations based in Pakistan. After sending tens of thousands of more soldiers and paramilitary forces to the area in August 2019, the Indian government sought to remove Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, ending Jammu and Kashmir's unique status. Kashmir, which is controlled by India, is still in lockdown, with internet and phone connections occasionally interrupted and thousands of people being imprisoned. In an attack on an Indian paramilitary force convoy in Indian-controlled Kashmir in February 2019, at least 40 troops were killed. It was Kashmir's deadliest attack in 30 years, according to the Pakistani terrorist organization Jaish-e-Mohammed. 2 weeks later, India claimed to have carried out airstrikes against a terrorist training facility inside of Pakistan. A day later, Pakistan responded by conducting airstrikes in Indian-run Kashmir. The argument turned into an aerial battle, in which Pakistan shot down 2 Indian military planes and kidnapped 1 Indian pilot. The latter was eventually freed 2 days later. In order to maintain regional peace, limit the spread of nuclear weapons, and reduce the likelihood of a nuclear conflict between India and Pakistan, the United States has recognized South Asia as the heartland of terrorism and religious extremism.